Good morning, everybody. So glad you could be here this morning. Well, David and I are very excited because we have such an interesting show today with a very, very special guest. You've seen him on Good Morning America. You've seen him on Dr. Oz. You've seen him on CNN. You've seen him on Discovery Channel. You've seen him on Mary Field's Gardening Advisor, and he's back.
Debbie, it's so nice to be here.
What a celebrity.
Hey, Dave, good to see you again. I'm just a bug guy. I'm just telling bug stories.
I was thinking, I hate to say, but I think we met, I've known you for over 15 years. I go back with the extension workshops and everything.
Sure, absolutely.
It goes back a ways there. But so glad to have you back on this morning.
It's such a pleasure. It's a delight to be here among all this beauty. Oh,
we brought it all in
spectacular.
For you. All right.
Just spectacular. I love spring.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Raup is a professor of entomology. I know you're doing teaching, research, some extension work, and I guess that your celebrity appearances keeps you pretty busy.
Well, no, the bugs are the celebs. I just help them tell their story. They're the stars.
So maybe give us a little overview of what's in store for us today.
Well, today this is going to be a fantastic show because, hey, we've got the blockbuster of 2013. It's not Iron Man 3. It's not the new Star Trek movie. It's the cicadas are coming back. So we're going to talk about some cicadas. Would you like to do that?
Absolutely.
And then one of my favorite things of all.
He's got one on his collar there, David.
Are they walking around?
He's on your collar.
Holy cow. We'll talk about that.
They're loose in the studio.
As long as they stay on that side.
As long as they don't make a jailbreak, we'll be okay, huh? And then we're going to do pollinators, one of my other most favorite group of insects in the whole planet because, hey, it's the pollinators that make this world go around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is, and I know I get so often we're dealing with insects as pests, so I'm so glad to be doing a very positive show on them.
The good guys.
These are the best. Absolutely.
Great. Yeah. Well, before we get started, just a quick announcement or two. Wanted to have you do a save the date for June 1st and 2nd. The Arlington Rose Foundation is going to be having their annual Rose Show. Goodness, I think this is the 55th or something like that this year at our Fair Oaks location, Saturday and Sunday, June 1st and 2nd. So do a save the date, put that on your calendars. That's going to be a great show. And Pam with the Arlington Rose Foundation is going to be at our Fair Oaks location today and tomorrow. Let's see, today from 12 to 4 and tomorrow from 11 to 4 to help you with rose selection and care. So she makes the rose growing a lot easier. So I hope you take advantage of that. Also want to remind you, to join us on Facebook if you haven't. We've been having a lot of fun with, we put a posting about Dr. Mike being here and just a lot of fun. So hope you enjoy it. Will join us on that because I love Facebook.
Yeah, so and we keep putting just beautiful photographs and pictures up there as well as good tips and little notices of what's upcoming events. So it's we're doing a lot of work for that, and that's a lot of fun.
We are. So on with the show. Let's go with the stars.
Yeah. Well, as you said, the blockbuster here are the cicadas. I'm just getting questions every day about maybe you can give us a quick rundown of what we have to look ahead to.
It's going to be spectacular. Everywhere from northern North Carolina to the Hudson Valley in New York, spilling over into central Connecticut. There are going to be billions, maybe trillions of cicadas out over the next 6 weeks. It's already started down there. The big boy band is up in the treetops. They're singing their hearts out. And it's coming to our area. They're just south of us. They're 15, 20 miles just to our south. So this is going to roll up the East Coast like a giant tsunami of Mother Nature. Wow. It's just spectacular.
Now, I've heard some people say they're going to leave the area during this time, but do we have people actually travel in?
Absolutely.
Plan their vacations, come in and enjoy this?
We've had contact from several folks who are already talking about coming to the East Coast so they can enjoy and witness the cicadas. It's spectacular.
Right. So what's the whole deal, the life cycle, what we have to look forward to? I've had people are alarmed about what could do to their landscape.
Yep. Well, basically, these guys have been underground for 17 years. How dismal. They've been sucking on plant sap, but now they're up and out. They're going to go up to the treetops. They're going to sing their hearts out. The guys are going to try to woo the babes up there, try to convince them to be the mother of his nymphs. What they'll do then, and this is the part where it gets a little bit perhaps a concern for some gardeners. What they'll do, the females will move to the tips of the small branches, pencil-sized branches, and they'll lay their eggs in those branch tips. This is what we call oviposition, and every female can lay up to 600 eggs.
Wow.
So it's that actual insertion of the eggs into the small branches that will damage the branches, and it creates a kind of injury we'll call flagging. So some of those terminals will actually flag down a little bit. David, if you have very small trees, ones that were recently transplanted, you might actually want to go out and purchase some cicada netting. You can place this over your tree. You should do it right now because the females are up and out. They'll be laying eggs soon. Put it over the tree, and that will prevent this oviposition damage. It's especially important in things like young fruit trees. So if you've planted peaches or apples or pears in the past couple years, it'd be a good idea to do this probably.
Excellent. And I think you brought a couple little video clips and pictures kind of help illustrate that.
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead and start with our first one.
Let's have a peek at that. Okay, these are the nymphs. This is what the nymph looks like. He's been underground for 17 years. No wonder he wants to get up.
Let me out.
He wants to help me. He's having a little trouble. He's having a hard time getting up and out of that hole, but he'll make a mad dash over to the tree trunk. He'll climb up on the tree. His skin will split open, and the beautiful adult cicada will emerge from that.
So we'll see that next
See
one.
what we have next.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just move to our next little video. Like I say, it shows
There
the
we
adult.
go.
There we go. Once he's out of the skin, up to the treetop he goes. And you hear that call in the background? That's the call of the cicadas. This is very romantic. He has 3 distinct calls that he used to woo his mate.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Absolutely. The first one is something like, hey, do you come here often? The second is, oh, you've got beautiful red eyes. And the third one might be something like, hey, would you like to come back to my place and look at my etchings? If she likes his routine, she'll click her wings, do a little dance, they'll hook up, and then she'll move out to the terminals to lay those eggs.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Good. And then also, I know I said this whole thing, so when they do the egg laying, you want to protect your trees. I've got a couple examples here. I think it comes from a publication like you were working on to show the homeowners how they can prevent damage to their trees.
Yeah, this is a very good idea. That's one of our friends, the honeybee. We'll talk about that little rascal in just a little while here.
Yeah, I was hoping we had a picture that showed the netting and the protection in there.
Well, there are lots of excellent places to get netting. I bet Merrifield can help you out with that, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Sure. And what you want to do is put that netting on as soon as you can. You have to tie it around the bottom because those females are sneaky. They'll try to sneak in. Be sure there are no females on the tree tied off. This is going to totally eliminate that damage. You're not going to have to spray these trees with pesticides. We really discourage that. Put the netting on, you're going to be fine.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking this doesn't have, you said several times, it's the smaller trees, maybe the high value trees. It's not like every tree in your landscape we need to worry about.
Oh, and you have to find out if you've even got cicadas in the area. If you don't have cicadas in your neighborhood, you don't have to do this.
Right.
This is only going to be in those high density places where we have a lot of cicadas, David.
Do you want to show up close one of our special guests? Now these flew in from North Carolina, right?
Yeah, we were actually working on a cicada special down there. It's called Cicadas and Invaders for Discovery Science. It's going to air on the 26th of May, and it is going to be spectacular. This is a little boy cicada. I'll see if I can get him to sing a little bit. Let's see if we can get a sound bite on this. Hasn't had his Starbucks yet.
That's right.
Stage fright going on there.
I think he has. Nah, he's got a little performance anxiety
He'll do it during the break.
He'll do it during the break. But the male cicada has a little drum head on his side. We call it a timbal, and he's able to vibrate.
Getting on this camera over here.
Okay, he's able to vibrate that timbal organ, and that sound can actually reach 90 decibels. The sound of a lawnmower or a jet aircraft flying overhead, or hey, a rock concert. But these are teenagers. They've been underground for 17 years. They want to get out of the ground, rock out, get up in the treetops, romance.
That's right.
Can't
one
blame
on your
them.
hand and one on your shirt.
There we go.
They're all over the place.
They're beautiful, beautiful creatures, spectacular.
All right, well, we better take a quick break. When we come back, we'll switch over to bees, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We were just talking about cicadas. Before we move on to the pollinators, we found our picture that we wanted to show you the netting, if we could show that real quick.
Yeah, Debbie, there you go. So basically, there are several types of netting. The most important thing you want to do is buy one where the openings are 3/8 of an inch or less. This will exclude the females. It'll keep them off those tender young branches. And be sure you enclose the bottom of the tree and tie it off with a twist tie. This will prevent the cicadas females from climbing up. They're diabolically clever at finding these branches. So.
And what's the timing on that?
Well, we should do that right now. If you have young trees, this is the weekend to do it. Fortunately, it's going to rain a little bit, but let's get out there as soon as we can and get the netting up, because over the span of the next 3 weeks, the females are going to be up in the treetops laying those eggs.
Okay, and we'll start hearing all the sounds?
Oh, yeah. Once everybody's up, another week or two, you're going to hear the chorusing, that 90 decibel rock concert up in the treetops.
And how long will that last?
It'll be there. They'll call for probably 3 weeks, perhaps a month, but by the end of June, this will all be over.
Gotcha. So not to worry, everybody.
No, it's going to be spectacular.
Well, I say, enough about cicadas.
Yeah.
What I really want to talk about are the pollinators, all the benefits that they provide, things that we can do as gardeners and homeowners to protect, preserve them, create habitat. So we'll start with the honeybee, which of course is the one that we all think of.
Yeah, this is our favorite. Now, this is one that the colonists brought over. A lot of people don't know that the honeybee is actually a foreigner in our land. It was brought over from Europe by the early colonists to pollinate the important crops that they brought along with them. Things like apples and peaches and cherries and so many of the wonderful, delicious fruits and vegetables we eat. But they also help out with the pollination of all the beautiful plants we have in our landscape as well.
Exactly. It's about that kind of relationship between the plants and the insects, with the plants, of course, providing the nectar, the pollen, all the attraction to them helping with the reproduction. It's just a fantastic thing to behold. And I think we've got a little video here that kind of shows it all in action.
Yeah. Oh, look at this. Yeah.
Hear the birds in the background.
Texas bluebells. I went down to Texas to the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Look how she pulls those petals down. She grabs the pollen with her mouth, puts it in those pollen basket. It all happens in a matter of seconds. She's one of the most efficient pollinators on the planet. And those beautiful flowers are specially adapted just to let these pollinators get in and carry their pollen from flower to flower. It's miraculous.
Right now, the bees are having a lot of problems right now.
Yeah, our honeybees and even our native bees are endangered. Our poor honeybees with colony collapse disorder, the introduction of the varroa mite, which really stresses these guys out. In addition, these mites can carry very nasty pathogens like viruses. Oftentimes, the quality of the food that our honeybees have access to isn't really so good. You couple things like poor nutrition with the load that these mites, the fact that they carry viruses, the bees become stressed, and then the colonies die. It's called colony collapse disorder. In addition, we have to be careful with our pesticides because we think that pesticides also may play a role in this whole colony collapse business.
Well, I have to say, to me, a honeybee in my garden is a rarity now. I find that as a rare sighting, and I treasure it when I find them because my whole garden is trying to provide a habitat for these insects.
That's absolutely what we have to do. And actually, the more people that we can get involved with beekeeping, the more hobbyists. And we're actually seeing bees in the middle of cities. There are small beehives you can place on apartment buildings. This is absolutely the best thing in the world, to have more beekeepers, more hobbyists, but also help out our commercial beekeepers with this colony collapse dilemma.
All right, well, let's go back to our pictures, see what we have in store for us next.
Great. Oh, bumblebees, one of my favorites. Come on, Bumble. You know, they're bumbling around, but oh, these are spectacular native pollinators. They're social, they're colonial. In other words, we have a queen, we have the workers, and yeah, I just love to watch these guys work. They're just spectacular.
Right.
Beautiful.
And of course, everybody, you know, the immediate reaction is they're afraid of bees, afraid of getting stung, and I think we can keep going with one little video here and talk about that.
Yeah, the sting is only a defensive sting with these interesting pollinators. I'm a bee whisperer, and if you hold that bee and say, oh, little bee, I promise not to harm you, and I'll let you go in 10 seconds, you're going to be fine. Can we roll that one more time?
Can we show that one again?
Can we cue it and roll it one more time, please? I want to show you one more trick if you want to be a bee whisperer.
No, the one before.
Oh, it's the one before, if we can. There we go. Now watch when this little bee comes out. You'll see a little bright patch on its forehead. You know what that tells me? It tells me that's the male. If you try that with a female, she'll sting the bejeebers out of you.
Gotcha.
So be sure it has the white patch on the forehead if you want to be a bee whisperer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yep.
Excellent. So like I said, bees are so wonderful, and we have this kind of fear of them. I brought a couple, like you have a couple others to show us.
Sure, yeah, let's look at some more pollinators if we can. Maybe we'll have a peek at some more of those wonderful bees that we see. Oh, the ground nesting bees. I have a patch in my backyard. It took me years to get that soil thin enough so I could have a colony of ground nesting bees. These are collated bees or plaster bees. These are native pollinators, and to see these little guys by the dozens and hundreds out there swarming across my yard in the springtime, it's just spectacular. I love to watch them work.
Great.
And we'll just keep going with these next couple
Yeah.
pictures because we're going to run out of time. And to me, this is so important because everybody, I've run into so many homeowners that are coming in for recommendations how to eradicate these, and I'm trying to work with educating them like we're doing today.
Sure. Well, I actually try to make my lawn thinner so I can have these bees, but if you increase the density of your turf, you'll find fewer of these bees. So that's really the primary recommendation is a healthy turf won't leave a habitat for these ground nesting bees. But I love these guys. Can we have the next one up maybe? Do we have time for one more?
We do.
Yep.
Spectacular.
And these are not aggressive big colonies that are going to come out and sting or attack you.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The only sting you would get from these guys would be a defensive sting. In other words, if you knelt down on them or had the misfortune to grab one accidentally, sure. But I tell you what, if a giant grabbed me, I'd bite it too, wouldn't you? Yeah. This is what my backyard looks like. This is my ground nesting bee colony. Cool. So I get to watch these and shoot the video we talked about and photograph them. My yard is really a studio for the bugs.
Now, before we go real quick, you had a couple of nesting ideas for the bees.
Sure. In addition to the flowers, and we'll talk about those in just a minute, one of the fun things to do is you can buy these bee tubes. These are for the mason bees. The mason bees are super important early season pollinators. Or what I do with my leftover firewood is I simply take it and I get my 7/16 drill bit and I drill some holes in it, and the mason bees will come in the springtime. They'll fill these galleries with pollen, they lay their eggs, and then they seal them up with mud. That's why they call them mason bees. Yeah. So it's a wonderful habitat in the springtime under my carport. You have to keep these dry, so you'll need to build a shed. I keep them under my carport, and for the past month there have been about 500 of these bees buzzing around my carport. I guarantee you, when the salespeople come to my front door, they turn tail and head the other way, Dave and Deb.
Now that's a good enough reason right there to get some going. Right?
Get them going.
All right, let's take a quick break and we'll come back with more interesting things here. Stay tuned. I forgot to mention at the start of the show that we are going to be taking phone calls later on. So if you've got some questions for Mike, be sure to think of them now, write them down, and give us a call in about 15 minutes probably. So let's continue.
Yeah, let's get right back to it because we got a bunch of different insects we want to talk about today and all the wonderful things they do.
So many pollinators.
So let's go right back to our, I think we've got a little video coming up now.
Yep.
Look at that beautiful creature, okay? This is one of our halictid bees. Look at the pollen baskets. They look like saddlebags as she works on this coneflower. She's going to take that pollen back to her hive, back to her little nest in the ground or perhaps in a hollow log and feed her babies with that pollen. They're just spectacular.
Yeah, so we do rely definitely on bees, as we've talked about a lot.
But our native bees, yeah.
Talk a little bit about flies, which are not real popular with anybody, but again, we really need them in our garden.
We absolutely do. There are many different kinds of flies. Flies are super important pollinators as well. One of my favorites are what we call the hoverfly or the flower fly. These are the ones that look like little helicopters. They hover, they eat nectar. But here's the great part. Once they've tanked up on nectar, they're going to go out and hunt aphids and spider mites. They're going to find an aphid colony, lay an egg, and that egg is going to hatch into a little monster, a little blind maggot that does nothing but hunt and kill aphids. They're super beneficial.
Wow.
Maybe we have some pictures of these too.
Yes.
Let's see what we got. Okay. Now, a lot of people get grossed out when they see a maggot, but here is the larva of the hoverfly or the flower fly. And right now, on your rosebush or spirea, these little monsters are out there assassinating aphids. You can see, I think it's got one of its jaws right there. Maybe, sure it does.
Yeah.
They'll eat one of these about every I don't know, about every 90 seconds, every minute, they'll take down another one. They can eat 1,000 of these things during the course of their development.
Wow.
To me, it's so fantastic because I had a customer coming yesterday bringing samples of Rudbeckia, just loaded, covered with aphids.
Sure.
We looked at it and we got to find that larvae in there just sitting there chowing down. There's about 3 of them on the single leaf.
Sure.
And it was a great opportunity, again, to educate everybody. We kept it there in the microscope and people were coming to watch and look at this, showing pictures of the adults so they could understand how the whole cycle works. And that was a case we were able to talk her out of spraying it. She bought some ladybugs to add to her garden.
That's great.
That's exactly the right thing to do. So when you see those little helicopter flies hovering, what they're doing, they're checking out your plants. They're on guard. They're going to lay eggs and murder those aphids.
Wow.
Yeah,
Was
we
there
talking
another
about the
couple
aphids
pictures?
were so stupid though. The aphids just like walked right into the. I mean, here he is.
I don't know.
Aphids
look
crawled
at that.
up on his back
Now,
and they got eaten.
That's a beautiful creature. I agree. Those aphids, they seem to be just clueless, maybe defenseless, but the hoverfly, beautiful thing. A lot of people think they're bees, but the difference between bees and flies, of course, is the flies only have 2 wings. Your bees always have 4.
Okay.
So have a close look at those beauties.
Yeah, and I give
another
credit. This is all your own photography and videos you've done.
Oh,
You know,
yeah,
that's an offshoot of your interest in entomology.
Absolutely. This is my therapy, is to go out and enjoy these spectacular creatures. And oh gosh, they're beautiful. They do kind of look like yellow jackets or bees though, don't they?
Yeah.
But they're really
They really
flies.
do.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
Let's see who's next.
Let's see, do we have any more? Yep.
Oh,
I'm going to switch gears from the flies and talk a little bit about beetles, why we have to have all these insects in our garden.
absolutely. And goldenrods are one of my absolute favorite native plants because they attract so many different kinds of pollinators. This is the locust borer. This is the adult stage of an insect that actually bores into black locust trees. But the adult stage is a wasp or yellow jacket mimic, and when it's on that flower head, it looks a lot like a yellow jacket with those patterns, those banding of black and yellow together. That's to scare away the birds. But these beetles, again, important pollinators of our native and imported plants.
All right, I think there's one. Is there one more?
Let's see.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, watch out for this guy, though. If you see a little black shiny beetle on there, Dave and Deb, don't pick that one up. This is
Gotcha.
what we call the blister beetle.
Ooh, that doesn't sound good.
It is not good. It has what we call reflex bleeding. It can, at its leg joints, it can exude a very, very nasty secretion. If you crush this on your skin, it will give you quite a good blister. And in some cases, horses have actually been intoxicated when they eat grass or forage that is infested with these beetles. So when you see these beetles on your plants, this is a look, but do not touch kind of a pollinator.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was thinking about, you know, the locust borer had the warning signs but is harmless, and then the blister beetle looks nondescript but can actually harm you.
Yeah. They're crazy. These bugs, they just don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
But it's all fascinating. And that's the thing, you know, you start out gardening, you go into more the ecology of it, and it never ends.
That's great.
The more you look, the more you see.
All right, we're going to take a break. We come back. Butterflies?
Yes.
All right, stay tuned. I hope you all are enjoying this as much as we are. This is a fascinating show here. So glad you're here.
I'm having a lot of fun.
What do we have next?
Well, we're going to talk about some of our other pollinators now. Excuse me. I think, David, everybody's favorite has to be the butterfly, I think.
It is. Well, that's why you kind of tried to entice people, you know, with the flies and the beetles and everything like that. But we saved the best to the end here.
Yeah, we were teasing them.
Exactly. So let's take a look at a butterfly doing her thing in the flowers.
This is spectacular. This is one of the most spectacular of all insects, in my opinion, are the butterflies. Just gorgeous, gorgeous creatures. Here we see a beautiful milkweed butterfly. You can see her proboscis working in and out of those flowers. She picks up the pollen on her face, and then when she goes to the next flower, she'll transfer that pollen, pardon me, she'll transfer that pollen to the female part, the stigma, and that's the act of pollination.
Yeah. So, yeah, of course she's in there searching for the nectar, and like I said, and as Mike's telling us, bringing the pollen around. But we can go back to some of the pictures. I mean, it's nice to have that close-up look and see how she's working this little nectaries.
And it's really the nectar that's the candy. It's the sugar, the carbohydrate source that's attracting all of these beautiful butterflies. Things like our beautiful monarch butterflies. Just
and of course, monarch is, you know, everybody's enticed with this, or favorite, I guess, in ways because of its migratory patterns. It shows the complexity of the insect world.
Yeah, this is one of the most unique insects of all of the world. A journey from North America as far as Canada to Mexico, a journey of thousands of miles every year. One of the most complex and fascinating of all the pollinator stories that we have.
Yeah, and just a couple other beautiful ones to entice everybody into planting the flowers and providing the orange sulfur.
Oh, our sulfur butterflies, again, on cone flowers. You know, we got to have those cone flowers in our landscapes. And again, for our monarch, we need to have those milkweeds there so we can have not only the host, the nectar source and the pollen source for the adults, but in the case of the monarch, that milkweed that's going to provide the food for the larvae so we can enjoy that. Fortunately, the cabbage butterflies love to have cabbage. So if you're growing crucifers in your garden, or even if there are mustards growing along the side of the road, you're going to have these beauties. These are some of the earliest ones to start in the season.
Yeah. But I think a lot of times that's what, just as I've learned from you, and I keep trying to share with the customers, is learning to accept a little damage in your landscape. You know, if you're going to have butterflies and you're going to have bees, you might have a few leaves gnawed and chewed on in the process.
Absolutely, but remember now, it's the insects that connect the plants to everybody above. So if you want birds in your landscape, if you want the songbirds, and then if you want the big predators, the hawks, you have to have those bugs in there because they connect the plant world to the bird world. So providing those host plants for your bugs, that's going to provide the food source for your birds. It makes Mother Nature work.
That's great. Yeah.
So we're going to show one more butterfly, and then I want to talk about the plants more. Oh, don't want to shortchange
these little hair streaks. Oh, aren't they gorgeous? Here we see one on a clover. These are some of the tiniest of all the butterflies, but I think they're some of the most beautiful.
Now, how do you get her to pose with a picture, though? That's always been my problem.
Well, I was wiggling around on my belly down in the clover patch. I just happened to get lucky, Dave, I think. It was just dumb luck.
I thought it was that bee whisperer talent comes in there. You just had a special call or something for him.
Dumb luck. Yeah.
Okay. Well, as we were saying, I mean, there's...
We've got one video, right?
Okay, well, because we want to cover the basis, I've got a moth up here, and I understand actually moths outnumber the butterflies.
They really, really do. Many moths don't feed at all, but some of them, oh, look at this. That's the little hummingbird moth, aka hawk moth, sphinx moth. Look at that. Look at her work. And again, she mimics a hummingbird or maybe a bumblebee, but she's just so effective and so efficient for this job of pollination.
Right. Well, I like the way you phrased it, that it's really the insects that connect the plants to the rest of the world. Right. But as a horticulturist, I'm going to come back and say it's about the plants. That's where we have to begin.
And it is about the plants. But look, you can create such a world of beauty in your garden Plant lots of these composites, members of the Asteraceae. These are some of their absolute favorites. Yarrows are one of my favorite too. Oh, the little bees, the little flies, love these things. And members of the mint family, sedums, catmint. My catmint just goes all year long. Everybody is in there. It's one of my absolute favorites, one of the very best. And for your long-tongued insects, let's see if we can get a shot.
They'll come back to us. Here we go.
Okay, we're going to come up.
Here we go.
For our insects with the long tongues, things like our butterflies and our moth, they really love tubular flowers. Right. So if you can have pretty red or pink tubular flowers in your garden, the honeysuckles, things like this, they're just going to love these things. And you know who else loves these? The hummingbirds.
Oh,
so
yes.
your tubular flowers are going to be just excellent, not only for your hawk moths, your sphinx moths, but also your hummingbirds. So get those tubular guys in there too.
And again, one thing I know I'm always emphasizing is a lot of these little predators, like little hoverflies, and of course they want little small flowers. So things like the aster families and the arrows and everything. You have to have little flowers to get some of these little ones in there.
Yeah, but the diversity is so spectacular, and the colors are, we didn't talk about things like the cuckoo bees that are going to come to these tiny flowers. Oh, this is my favorite season.
I was going to say, some of these I've never even heard of. These are just so fascinating.
Yeah, and we tried to show also, again, as you said, the real key there is the diversity, you know, trees, shrubs, annuals, perennials, so you have blooming all through the season. You have many different food sources.
Yeah, this is Mother Nature's plan, is biodiversity. Biodiversity is the key to making this world go around, and you're absolutely right. My very first mints are blooming just after that frost. They're up and out of the ground, and I have things that'll bloom very late into winter, and there is always somebody in my garden, either on my annuals, my beautiful perennials, and my trees and shrubs.
Good. Do you get a lot of neighbors back in your garden walking by? I know Peggy gets a lot of people walking by in her garden.
A lot of people, when I'm out there with my cameras in the front yard, they're saying, "What are you doing today, Mike?" Right. And they come over and I get to tell them a little bug story.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to take your phone calls. So if you've got some questions for Dr. Mike, give us a call, 703-387-1046. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. The beauty of spring. Love it, love it, love it. Well, we're taking your phone calls, 703-387-1046. And our first caller is Laura, who's calling from Bowie. Hi, Laura.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good morning.
Fine, thank you. I've really enjoyed this program. Thank you so much. My question, however, is about cyclamen. I bought one last Thanksgiving, and it bloomed very well through the first week of May. I haven't changed the location or the way I'm taking care of it. The flowers are starting to fade, and there aren't any new buds coming up from the bottom, and the leaves are turning yellow. I've heard that they go into a period of dormancy, so I'm assuming that's what's happening. How do I take care of it to get it to bloom again?
Yeah, cyclamen is a cool weather plant. It really thrives when temperatures are around that 50 to 65 degrees, so it will go into what we call summer dormancy. So if you can let it go in that dormancy, basically sort of let these leaves sort of yellow, wither, kind of put it, there's a corm, can go into a little bit of a resting condition, and then towards fall, keep it in a cool location, start watering it, and it will resume growth. Now I have kept them going year round, but it does require that you find a cool room, bright indirect light, and sort of keep them consistently moist. So I'm going to say it's your choice. You can let go to a dormancy, or if you've got the right environment, you can keep that going year after year.
Probably I'll just let it go into dormancy. About when should I start watering it again?
Probably we're looking towards fall. I'm going to say September, October. Keep in mind that 50 to 65 degree temperature range is where it really wants to be. So whenever you can provide the right conditions, that's when you'll start watering it again.
I just keep it in a cool, dark place right now?
For now, now let it kind of yellow and wither down on its own. Kind of start with holding the water. It will go into all those leaves will yellow and wither. Then you can put it into storage, and then, as I said, in a cool, dark location, and bring it out again this fall and try to start it up again.
Okay, thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, our next caller is Christine, who's calling from Clifton, my town. Hi, Christine. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good, Christine.
I have a question on ticks.
Ticks.
Particularly deer tick control, and we've got a pretty bad problem, and we've been bitten. One of us hospitalized, and we want to be able to control the population, the deer tick population. We have probably about 15 deer that live in the area of the 3 homes near me, and we purchased some defenserin, but I understand that can eradicate a lot of the pollinators, and that's what I don't want to do. So how can I control them without killing the pollinators?
Good question.
Right, Christine, this is a huge problem. The deer ticks and the other ticks that we have in this area. I've had Lyme disease twice myself.
Me too.
So it really surely is a concern. With ticks, what I really recommend that you do is that zone between your yard perhaps and the forest or a field that might be behind it is going to be the refuge for the small mammals that are the reservoir host for those deer ticks and the Lyme disease bacteria that really causes the disease. A lot of people think that it's Bambi that's responsible for this big problem, but really it's more the small rodents that create this problem. So what you would like to do is have a nice clean edge, nice dense lawn, and then immediately move into a transition zone that includes things like your smaller trees and shrubs, your perennials, your herbaceous and woody perennials, and then your forest. Eliminate those grasses because that's the place where these small rodents hide. Get rid of your wood piles, any brush, any clutter, because again, that provides a place for these rodents to hide from things like the hawks or the cats that would like to eat these. So if you can eliminate that refuge for your small mammals, this will really cut down on the number of ticks in the area. And of course, whenever you go outdoors, be sure when you've walked through the meadow, as soon as you get in, do a full inspection of your body. If you can remove those ticks within the first 24 hours, the chance that you're going to contract Lyme disease is going to go down to about 0. So get rid of that kind of messy area, the transition zone, and always do an inspection when you come back from your walk.
Now, I read also, if I might ask, it's these little tubes, and they have cotton balls soaked in, I think, it's supposedly non-toxic, and it's more for the mice and the small rodents that'll kill the ticks on those. Do those work? Are they effective?
This was a very clever strategy and a very effective device. What they did was impregnate the cotton ball with an insecticide, in this case an acaricide that would kill the ticks. So when the mice came to collect the cotton to build their nests with, they would become dosed with the acaricide, and that would kill the ticks. It's a very clever idea, but frankly, Christine, I don't know if these are still on the market. If you can find these are very, very effective.
I'm going to jump, and you can find them at Maryfield Garden Center.
Wonderful.
Oh,
okay.
Excellent. Wonderful.
Thank you
so much.
I did want to follow up real quick on this because I'm interested myself. The balance between using broad spectrum insecticides to kill the ticks versus our message to protect the pollinators. It's a tough balancing act, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are.
It absolutely is. But again, the pollinators are so important, and frankly, ticks don't really like lawns. What they like are these grassy areas. They like low vegetation. So if you can manage this effectively, this will really cut down on the rodent population, and that's really the key here. It's to get rid of these rodents. That'll cut way back, and it'll also eliminate the need for a broad spectrum application of pesticide. There would surely be, I can't think of a good reason you would treat an entire lawn because those ticks are going to be right at that border. If you manage those rodents, I think you're going to be way ahead of the game.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good point.
Christine, thanks for your call.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks. You too. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk to Marcia. So hold tight, Marcia. We'll be right back with you. back. I was just saying, I don't want this to end. This is so fascinating. We've got a couple more callers before we end our show. So let's see. Marcia is calling from Silver Spring. Thanks for holding, Marcia. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks very much.
Good.
I'm calling about carpenter bees. We have a real problem right now with them, and they're in the yard. They're eating or drilling big holes into our fence posts and our some arbors that we have around the yard. What can we do about carpenter bees?
Well, Marcia, this is a real tough call, and it's going to be a personal choice. As we've talked about before, that little image, the clip I showed before of the me capturing a bee, that was a carpenter bee. And they're very important native pollinators, but I understand they can also be very destructive. What we know about carpenter bees is they will prefer softwoods over hardwoods because they have to chew through there and they're trying to save their teeth. So if you can build your arbors and things with a harder grade wood rather than western red cedar or something like this, that's going to help to dissuade them as well. We find that painted wood may actually give a little bit more protection, not bulletproof, but a little bit more protection than unpainted or even pressure treated. But beyond that, if they do become a problem, there are many products on the market that are labeled for eliminating these bees. I was talking to Dave on this on break, and I know I've got carpenter bees at my place. You might not like to hear this, but I simply replace the wood when they've started to work in there, and I let those little pollinators have their way. But again, this is very much a personal choice, but they are relatively easy to get rid of, either through replacement of that wood or through products you can buy.
How about if I vacuumed them up with a shop vac and then released them in Rock Creek Park?
I love that very much. I think that'll work, and that would be very, very sweet of you. Mother Nature will thank you if you do this.
But they won't find their way back to my yard, will they?
No, if you take them to Rock Creek, it's going to be okay. I'm not sure that's legal, but I would give it a try. I would give that a try. I love it. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks, Marcia. Take care. Okay, our next caller is Nancy, who's calling from Arlington. Hi, Nancy.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thanks.
My question is, my vegetable garden, does corn have to pollinate to grow? And I have a friend that has an orange tree, and the oranges aren't growing. Do they need to pollinate?
Yeah, good questions.
Yeah, they absolutely do. You need to have pollination for all of these plants to produce fruit. Yes, but usually if you build it, they will come kind of a deal. Certainly with your corn and things, there are enough pollinators outside that you will have natural pollination. The citrus may be a little bit more difficult. I believe with citrus you actually have to have cross-pollination, so you might actually need to have other citrus plants nearby. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that's the case. So if it's just a single plant, I'm not sure that you can accomplish this. Do you move the citrus plants outdoors in the summertime?
Yes.
Okay. But still no fruit?
Very little fruit. They don't grow to, the proper size you might get.
Okay, well, if you have fruit developing, then this is more of a nutritional thing rather than a pollination thing, I'm guessing. So it may have something to do actually with the vitality or the vigor of your plant and its ability to produce those fruit rather than a pollination issue.
Now, I do think Nancy brings up an important point. I'm just going to jump in. I have lots of gardens because of our lack of pollinators that are hand pollinating. Things like citrus or even tomatoes that you're growing on your deck or patio. I've run into that myself because we just don't have enough of these pollinators around.
Great, and the hand pollination is going to work?
Yeah, just with a little Q-tip or a brush or something. And so if you don't have the pollinators, that's just more work for you to do.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
Fantastic. Thanks, David.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks so much for the call. Okay, let's see. Our next caller is Ann, who's calling from Fairfax Station. Hi, Ann.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Do you have a quick question?
Yeah, every time I plant petunias, I end up getting a lot of mites on the plants. I think they're mites. They're tiny little white fuzzy bugs. Well, my question was, is there something I can plant with the petunias that would attract predators that might eat these mites?
That's an excellent question, and I wouldn't, if you have a nice diversity of things in your gardens, your mites and your spider mites are going to be controlled on things like petunias primarily by small ladybird beetles and also a type of predatory insect we call a lacewing. I think the important thing here again is to try to maintain the diversity here and maybe cut back a little bit on your rates of fertility. We find there's a link between high levels of fertilization on these plants and the outbreak of mites. The other pretty simple thing you can do that's non-pesticidal is if you can direct a spray, a nice, fairly vigorous spray of water, cold water, on these petunias, you're going to dislodge those mites, and once they fall down to the soil, they're going to get gobbled up by predators. So maybe back off your fertilization just a little bit. Provide a little bit of shade if you can for these. They'll tolerate a little bit, light shade. And then maybe hose them down every now and again.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend.
And I found a lot of times you kind of have to resist that urge to intervene, you know, because you need to have, if you're going to have predators, you need to have prey for them and vice versa. So sometimes I think it's recognizing this is going to happen, resisting the urge to intervene, and let this all reach a balance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time.
Oh.
Thank you so much for being here.
It was a delight.
Was wonderful.
Just delightful. Thank you. A pleasure.
And David, you will be back next week, and we're going to have a spring garden update?
Yeah, I've got so many different things going on. Rather than name one topic, we're going to cover a bunch of different things, anything from what's blooming, what's flowering, steps we can take to keep our garden healthy, you know, looking forward into the summer months.
Great. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.